Yeah, okay, we'll go ahead. All right, I'm hitting the record, but we'll shit out a fucking Dynasty Warriors episode here. Okay?
Okay.
This is going to include some beat 'em ups and Mouso games. Okay?
Okay.
Welcome, folks. Welcome to Thursday. Who's Your Main? I'm Jared.
I'm Anthony.
Together, we're the co-hosts of Who's Your Main, and we got a request from a non-listener. He doesn't listen. But he said we should do this, and we were sitting there rapping about what we should talk about, and I started losing my shit over some of the Mouso games that I've played. Folks, a Mouso game is real quick to catch you up here. Is Dynasty Warriors are the most well-known Mouso games, and they are basically they took the phrase "one warrior worth 1,000," and they turned that into a game. So you basically run around as one guy. You pick the roster is often very large, with many different weapon types, play styles, quote unquote, if you will. You basically just jam the button to hit guys, and there'll be hundreds and hundreds of guys on the screen. And then you'll build up a meter, and that's your Mouso. And then you can do a super move where you spin around and kill everybody. And it's really cool if you like that kind of stuff. I kind of see it in the same vein as beat 'em up games of the past. Some examples of those games would be Streets of Rage, Final Fight, Double Dragon, Battletoads. We'll talk about some of these games here, but I see them in the same vein. Just one is in a 3D world and one is a 2D plus. But yeah, we'll go ahead and pop this off. Okay. What was your first Mouso game that you played?
So the first one that I played, and this is going to seem counterintuitive to how I normally am, I played it on the PSP, and it was Dynasty Warriors 1 from 2004. I had to look this up because I couldn't even remember which one it was. It was the very first one, and I had no clue what was going on. It's exactly how you said. It was just like I picked a guy. I don't remember who it was. I was like, they have a cool weapon. I'll pick them. I played it. I want to say it was a launch title for the PSP. I might be wrong on that. I was just like, this looks cool. I'll try it. Obviously, I'm not as experienced in these games as you and your brothers are. The story didn't stick with me like it did with you guys. But I agree with the fact that the gameplay was amazing, where you basically just mow through an entire army by yourself. And sure, you've got lieutenants who can help you, but it's up to you to win. That was very fun.
To explain the game mode a little bit more, so it makes a little more sense here, is it's very mindless, and it's a great way to unwind. You just jam the button and you win. But the lieutenants that are on any given map, it's often a very large map that you have to traverse on foot. Sometimes you can get a mount. If we're talking about Dynasty Warriors, you can get several different kinds of horses, with the red horse being the fastest. And the lieutenants are really just there to be like, hey, we're getting fucked over here. Could somebody help? And they're just like, they're telling you, the player, to run your ass over here and kill the guy. And then you'll fight countless no-name guys. And then there'll be the other characters that you didn't pick, because it's one army versus another army. And so say you're on the green army, then guys on the blue army over here. And then here's the blue guy you didn't pick. And yeah, the romancing saga of Dynasty Warriors has stuck with me. And I really only played like maybe 3 Dynasty Warriors games, but once you've played one, you've pretty much played every single Dynasty Warriors game. So usually exactly the same story, just kind of retold a little differently. Same characters. Voice actors, I don't know, they're all over the place. It's such a weird game. Japanese people made a game about Chinese history because it's a story from history, like a real, like that's how they said that the Han Dynasty or whatever was formed, was these 3 romancing kingdoms. They call it the romancing kingdom story. The Wu, the Wei, the Shu. I don't know. There's a lot of different ones. My favorite guy from all these games will always be Guan Yu. He had a big Guando sword. It's not actually a sword, folks. It's like a spear with like a big blade on the end. They call it a Guando sword. I mean, I guess it's a sword, right? It's longer handle.
And like you said, I think this is what initially drew me into the series was the fact that it's, it has those ties to history. And this is kind of that period in time where I was playing games like that were, very loosely based or one-to-one based on periods of time in history. And so, yeah, I think that's an absolutely key element of the story that kind of sucks you in and draws you in, is the idea that there is this human element to all of this, where obviously it's dramatized and made much more over the top than what it would have been back then. But it's very cool to experience that kind of humanity in that storytelling, and so that's really cool for me, and what initially drew me to the game series.
I think what's so crazy about the Dynasty Warriors games is the first Dynasty Warriors game is not a Mouso game. It's a fighting game. That's it. It's on the PlayStation. I can't remember if me and Bryce played it, but so we picked up the first one that we played was Dynasty Warriors 2, and it was only one player, and we played that game for hours. I mean, hours. It was so much. We thought it was so much fun watching that number climb each match, trying to get to 1,000. I don't know why you would shoot for 1,000. Probably because it said on the box, "A warrior worth 1,000." Oh yeah, prove it. And then I kill 1,000 guys. Holy shit! That's right. This is incredible. And then if you've never played these games, there's certain battles in the Dynasty Warriors game that are scary because they have a particular enemy by the name of Lu Bu. And he's extremely strong, probably too strong for the first time you go through the game, because you can build the characters up. You unlock weapons, you unlock gear, things that power up the character. And it's really fun. And then so the first time that you go in, there's Lu Bu. You're like, oh shit, it's fucking Lu Bu! And he's just chasing you down, and he's beating the piss out of you. And of course, he also is riding a red hare, so escaping him was really hard. So you would have to try to avoid that area of the map. It was really fun. Dynasty Warriors 2 was so fun. When they added multiplayer to these games, it was incredibly fun. Me and Bryce would play those for hours. Just me and him. Nobody else really wanted to play these games. I don't know why we liked it so much. Probably because you could just pick any guy. Pretty girls, pretty guys, whatever you like. Big, strong, tough guys, little tiny little dudes, big, strong, tough women, different weapons all over the place. What's your poison? Pick your poison. And then it would tell you a different story depending on the character. Some of these were really in depth. Some of the first Dynasty Warriors games were very in depth. Very good story. I don't know how they are now. I've not come back to them. I'm kind of alone now in modern gaming, whether or not they're good or fun. I think they're fun. Some of the other games that came out after that were the Samurai Warriors games, which were actually harder than the Dynasty Warriors games, purposely so. People be Dynasty Warriors is too easy. Well, that's the fucking point, man. It was so easy. I could sit down. Of course, I was a kid then, There wasn't I had to get off of work and then I could unwind playing Dynasty Warriors. But there's so many of them now, and so many different games have come to Dynasty Warriors. I don't know. Did you ever play anything that wasn't Dynasty Warriors, but was a Mouso game?
Yeah, I definitely played the Gundam series. We looked it up before this started, and I think there were 3 of them. I know for sure I played the first one and the third one. I don't know if I ever played the second one. But though, again, it's like you said, you're picking a story or a franchise or whatever it is, and you're applying that style of game to it. And Gundam is the perfect universe for that, because in the same vein of one warrior versus 1,000, well, one Gundam pilot is worth 1,000 Zakus, or whoever it is that you're fighting, depending on what game or era that you're playing in. And so to me, those games were much more my cup of tea, because I was much more attracted to the Gundam series than I was, Chinese history. I think the first game was plenty for me in Dynasty Warriors, but then, obviously I couldn't get enough of the Gundam series.
Yeah, and they've done other anime. So Gundam's an anime. If you don't know what that is, type it in and have your life changed like we were when we were young. The ones that I thought fit this idea really well was Berserk, which I haven't played it, but I've watched Lemon play it a bunch. The Berserk series is like the perfect series. I think it just follows Guts, though. It's not like it's you can play all the different characters. Well, maybe you can. I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't really play it. The one that I got into and played a bunch of was the Fist of the North Star, Ken's Rage version of it. I love Fist of the North Star. It's one of my favorite classic animes and stories. I've got a lot of those. It was really fun. He's like going around popping their fucking heads. It was like so fucking fun. Fits the fucking idea. I will beat your ass because I'm a badass. It's not like this. I gotta struggle to become badass. You just are. You start off with all the fucking powers, and I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you. And it was just fun time. Very fun.
Yeah, I think for me, we grew up on those anime. I guess I'm thinking of like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that, where there was very much a code of honor where it's like, this is going to be a one-on-one fight. We're not going to involve anybody else. You either are strong enough or you're not. And if you're weaker than me, then I gain nothing by fighting you. So I'm not going to fight you. Someone else will. And so the disparity in, when you're fighting these games, when you just mow through the common soldiers, you're almost doing it because they're in your way to get to the fight that you want to have, which, like you said, is Lubu or whoever it may be, whatever game you're playing. And so to me, it was such a cool juxtaposition of that idea of like, well, I have this warrior's honor and it's a 1v1 blood sport style of fighting. This is the grand stage of combat. This is war, And so for me, that was such an exciting change of pace. And like you said, that could be applied to almost any anime that has that style of fighting where you're trying to say, this guy is so good, a regular fighter can't even touch him. Sure, they might knock you off your horse and you have to get back on, but that's almost like, oh, I wasn't looking and you knocked me off my horse, and then you kick them as you ride by or whatever. The fighting was between the lieutenants or the general who was commanding the army. And so that's such a cool way of showing a power gap or a power disparity between, your main character and the enemy main character.
The Fire Emblem series had one. I didn't play that one either. I kind of fell off playing these kind of games. But Fire Emblem had one. One Piece surprisingly had one. I don't know what that's like. Gotta be something. But I feel like Gundam always kind of fit in there. It fit right. It was a war game, and like you said, the Gundams were really in that story world. In that world, Gundams were far superior to the standard mobile suits that were in there. I still can't. What the fuck is a fucking One Piece doing in there? I don't know. The ones that I was really interested in and wanted to play was Hyrule Warriors. I was telling Anthony I played a demo of Hyrule Warriors, the first one. There's 3 of them, okay? But the next 2 have to do with Breath of the Wild, which I'll tell you about that in just a second. But I remember loading this up to play this, and just like you enter the battle and you're no-name Link. Means Link is not recognized by Zelda. And the music starts in. It's like da 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 da. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? And I'm like fucking whacking the fucking goblins. I'm like, oh, Bokokrins or whatever they're called. And you're killing them, and you're like, and then you get to the thing where you got to like open the gate and kill the fucking general like you do in these kind of games. And you beat him down. It's like da 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 da. And I'm like, whoa, this is sick. I love it. And that was so cool. That game also has one of my favorite iterations of Ganondorf, where he just looks so fucking cool. And of course, you can play as all the guys, even your favorite waifu from Twilight Princess. That's right, Midna is playable. Nice, good choice. But yeah, they went on to make the Breath of the Wild Hyrule Warriors games, and it's really cool story-wise. They're really cool because they set up the story for Breath of the Wild 1. Despite how I feel about that entire storyline and things that happened with those games, I think this is the perfect use of the Mouso mode, telling the story of how Hyrule fell to Ganon Ganondorf or whatever he is in that game. I can't remember. Just Ganon, I think. Anyway, how they fall to Ganon and the great heroes from that storyline dying, the Guardian characters who drive the giant mobile suits that are shaped like animals that become dungeons later. They're there. Everybody's there. Really cool idea. The best part about it is they take place on the battlefields on the world map of Breath of the Wild. So you will be in locations that are in the game. So they link up really well. It's incredible storytelling. But yeah, I don't know. The Mouso games were very fun. There's not a whole lot to say here, I think, as far as, I mean, it's just mindless fun is what they were. And you pick your favorite flavor and you start playing.
Exactly. And I think it's exactly like you said. It requires a game or a story to have these very recognizable characters so that can carry the story, that can carry the narrative, and you can kind of pick out these characters that are more important than just the rank and file, goblins or whatever it is that you're fighting against. And so you're exactly right. The soundtrack being so important to that, this rising tension coming from the soundtrack of a game. And it's because you already have the background and the knowledge and you care about these characters. Well, now all of a sudden this battle is important. And like you said, it's crazy how a lot of the times in these Dynasty Warriors games, you would succeed in your mission and it would be like, well, you lost because yes, you defeated the enemy's general, but you gave up, whatever it was. I'm spitballing here, not going off of a specific mission or anything like that. But like you said in the Legend of Zelda edition of this, which is, yeah, you won the fight, you did what you were supposed to, but the calamity of Ganon won, or the evil side won, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And that's kind of what happens in war, where it's like, or I should say in these war style of games where it's like, yes, we captured the objective, we won, we beat the bad guy, and then you look over and there's just this massive tide of enemies, and you realize this was just a drop in the bucket. You didn't do anything to affect the tide of war, and it's like, okay, now I get it, now I understand.
So I'm gonna tie us into the other kind of. I feel like it's in the same style. I don't know. This is kind of a theory, I think, now of mine. I didn't really think about it until we were just talking about this, the beat 'em ups and how I think they kind of match and are a part of the Mouso games. And I don't know. I don't know if this is a real thing or anything like that. But Anthony and I didn't really get to play arcade beat 'em ups. I mean, we played them on the consoles, but we weren't going to arcades and playing them. It just wasn't something that had happened. But I think it would be not good to not start with one of my favorite beat 'em ups, which is Turtles in Time. And it was an arcade game, but I played the Super Nintendo game. Talk about soundtrack, graphics. I don't care. I know it looked probably better in the arcade. But damn, this game left a mark on me. It was so fun. And the Warrior Worth 1,000, once again, you pick your favorite turtle. They have their own weapons, and then you just start mowing down guys until you get to the general, and then you beat the general with maybe Baxter, maybe Tokar and Razor, Oh my God, dude, that game was fucking incredible.
I'm not sure if it was the same name, but there was definitely a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles version on Sega, and I played that as well. The other one that I kind of remember playing a ton, and again, like you said, it wasn't like we had these arcades that we could go to. I also didn't own these games. I was going and renting these games, but the one that I remember having an insane amount of fun doing was the X-Men games. I don't know if that was a Super Nintendo game as well, but just you have these crazy characters that we knew from cartoons, and it was like, oh my gosh, there's a game for that. And so you go and play it, and it's like, oh, they have all their powers, and they obviously there's no dialogue or anything like that. You couldn't do that yet, but so much of what those games were about was about this presentation of a character by using, hyper stylization. Like you said, maybe the graphics didn't hold up to what they could have been, but to us, they looked exactly like the show. They had like 3 drawings of animation or whatever you want to call it, and it's like, oh wow, look, they hit him with the stick just like they do on the show.
Dude, I played one of the X-Men side scroller games on the Sega. I think we've talked about it before, but man, was that a fucking good game. Oh my god. But the big beat 'em up from Sega, which I've only really got to play recently, I played the Capcom version, which was called Final Fight. But the one that was on the Sega, and I mean, I don't know why people compare these two. The graphics on the Sega and Streets of Rage, the first one still beat Final Fight that I played on the Super Nintendo. I've recently gone back and played them. The soundtrack is so good. And the other thing that I think really ties us in for me for beat 'em ups and Musos is the super moves that you can do in beat 'em ups. You often get a super move that you can use your HP to hit every guy around you to get them off you, because sometimes you get swarmed so much you can't hit. You don't have enough punches to punch or get enough kicks to punch and kick everybody. Maybe I wasn't that good at these games, but yeah, the super moves were sick in a lot of these games.
I've got 2 that I thought of, and one of them maybe is more of a comparison to Mega Man than a beat 'em up. But the first one that I thought of was Battletoads, where I can't remember the guys' names, but I think there was 3 of them, where you would just go through the level and you would just beat the crap out of the enemies. And on Sega, a lot of that stuff was so hyper stylized and colorful and bright. And I remember Battletoads being one of those games where it was, obviously, like you said, some of the more serious, more realistic ones I didn't gravitate towards because I was a little kid. But if you said Battletoads, I was like, oh, that sounds sick. Let me play that one. And so I played Battletoads. And then the other one that I played, again, I think this is probably more of a Mega Man clone than it is a beat 'em up clone. But Earthworm Jim, where you're scrolling through the level and jumping and shooting and getting to the end and trying to keep your little worm guy alive. I thought those 2 games were worth mentioning as well.
I don't care if fucking Earthworm Jim wasn't a beat 'em up. That game deserves to be mentioned. Earthworm Jim, I don't know why. We thought he was so cool when we were kids. Hey, dirt! That's what he would say. But if he got out of the suit, he would turn back into like a normal worm. But as soon as he get in the suit, he was like, "Rah!" He's like fucking crazy. Earthworm Jim was so fucking cool, man. The cartoons around him. I think they ended up doing comics and stuff. But you're right. I think it was more of a jump shoot game than it was a beat 'em up. But still worth a mention. And I was going to bring up Battletoads. Battletoads were fucking awesome. I don't care. Maybe the design of the game wasn't super great, but I loved the Battletoads. Zitz, Rash, and Pimple, I think, are the 3 Battletoads.
Yeah.
They are so cool. I think this is a rare game. Yeah, I just Googled it here. It's rare. So the people who brought us Donkey Kong and stuff brought us the fucking Battletoads. Why aren't these guys in Smash? One of them. At least fucking Zitz. Maybe because their name. I guess Rash would be the one. He's the one with the sunglasses. He wants to be famous was his story. I always played, I believe, Pimple, the big brown one. Of course, I'm drawn to the big guy. Yeah, Battletoads was awesome. They're infamous games, though. I don't know if you know all of the stories around that, but there's this section in Battletoads where you have to ride these bikes, these hyper bikes, and it's like really fucking hard to get past. It basically was a quarter eater level, I'm sure. But then on the home NES, it was like, fuck, this fucking stupid shit. It was way hard. But you can't mention Battletoads without mentioning Double Dragon. Now, Double Dragon was an arcade game, but I only really played it at home. Once again, I love Double Dragon. I love the music. I love the ideas of this stuff. Fucking awesome. But okay, so the reason that you have to mention them together is because there's a Battletoads Double Dragon game. Oh my God, I love that game, dude.
And sort of the same way that you mentioned with the Mouso games, I think the thing that was kind of almost like unexpected fun was having somebody over and sitting down and having player two jump in, and you're both on the screen. You know, it's not like it's split screen. You both just share the screen. So there is no player one and player two. You both felt like you were the main character. You felt like you were the guy, and you know, you're clearing levels together and all of that stuff. Obviously, you're working together. But I just thought that was so cool that, you know, somebody else grabs controller two and we're both sitting there playing on the same screen. It's not split screen. It's not anything else. I thought that was so cool and so fun.
I know some of them on the Super Nintendo would support 4 players if you had the adapter for 4 controllers, which we did. I don't remember. I want to say Turtles. Yeah, Turtles in Time. We played a 4-player when we was kids, and each of us had our own turtle because there was 4 of them. Yeah, I love that aspect. The multiplayer group, like, oh, I'm getting held, is because you would get grabbed in these beat 'em up games, and if there was someone there, they could punch the guy off of you, and you wouldn't lose health. Because if you didn't come up and help them, then another enemy would come up and start beating the piss out of you while you're getting held, and so you couldn't do anything when that grab happened. But man, I loved those games. The final one I'm going to talk about, because it was part of what we talked about a little bit, Streets of Rage. The one that was for the Super Nintendo was made by Capcom, the people who made Street Fighter, and they made Final Fight. And so the one that I played is the first one, and it had Cody and Hagar in it. Of course, I always played Hagar. He's a big guy. He has one belt coming up from, and he's shirtless, and he's fucking huge and ripped. And he's got a fucking mustache, dude. That guy was a fucking badass as far as I was concerned. And I think he was like the mayor. I think that's the story, is he's the mayor, and they call him up and they're like, we got your daughter, you fucking bitch. And he's like, oh, you fucking kidding me? Hangs up, rips his shirt off. Cody! Cody's just like a guy, and he just wraps his fucking hands up. He's like, what, Dad? I'm not your dad. And then they go out and they fight, and people are like pulling out knives and shit, and you're like, what the fuck? And he's just fucking Hagar. Like, there's always voice lines in all these kind of games, right? And Hagar, when he would pick dudes up and smack them, he would go, yeah. And man, that noise, that sound effect is in me. Yeah. We didn't even talk about that on the wrestling episode. We were going to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll throw that in right now. Is the sound effects on the fucking old wrestling games? That's what. Yeah, okay. Because Hagar, it was a wrestler. That was his fighting style. So it kind of fits. Okay, but the sound effects on those old wrestling games were great. I'm sorry, folks.
You know, obviously, neither one of us are any kind of, well, I guess I should say, you have made a game, you know what that's like, where so much of a character is about how you present them to the player. So you have their portrait, what they look like, but I think even more important to that is, what do they sound like? What are they, how do you convey their personality, maybe when you can't have lines of dialogue or whatever? And so those like little, whatever you want to call them, barks or whatever, gosh dang, you're right. Those things are burned in my brain, where it's just like, gosh dang, it's so good. The one from the wrestling that I still, when we narrate those games where you're streaming on Twitch, and it's that like, ooh, you know, it's just those, like, you just get punched in the gut, and it's just like, ooh, ooh, ooh,
I'd love to do like a compilation of every sound effect that lives in our heads. The one that lives in my head, actually, this death sound effect, we were talking about like oofs and offs and stuff. The one that lives in my head actually comes from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. So for the Game Boy Advance, there was a Final Fantasy Tactics game. And then you could build your team, and there was tons of different races and stuff. Well, maybe we'll do a tactics episode later. I'm not going to go into all that. But the one race you could only be boys of, and then there was only girls of other races, whatever. And it was the bongas. And when the bongas died, they go, Kua! They make like this Kua sound, and it is incredible. I love that sound effect. I would be like, send my bonga guy out so he could get killed, so I could hear him. Oh, fucking cool. I'm gonna cool. I still make that noise when I die in games.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you're exactly right. I think we need to do an episode where we just have a soundboard and you and I just play sound effects from the games. I like to this day, I still say goodbye TN from playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai, and I for whatever reason there was a fight against, obviously when spoilers when Chaozu dies, and he just said the line over and over and over again because I kept losing. And it's just burned in my brain. So anytime somebody dies, it's goodbye, TN. Or anytime I'm about to die, goodbye, TN.
I don't think that's right. I don't think you should do that. I saw this amazing jacket, by the way. I don't think I told you this. Oh, maybe Lemon linked it to us. Maybe that's what it was. And it's this jacket with fucking Chaozu on the back, like he's holding the back and looking down. It's the exact. It's the frame when he's like telekinetically telling Tien that he's gonna blow himself up. Goodbye, Tien, on the fucking back of this, and it's a Saiyan jacket. Like I was like, oh my god, you can't make that. What the hell is this?
There are so many. Like I'm convinced that. Probably you for the folks at home who don't know about this, we were having technical difficulties because your hard drive was over full and was reporting back errors and crashing games and stuff like that. I'm convinced that my brain is over full and like 80% of it is just sound effects from movies and games that are just lodged in there and taking up unused space.
Yeah, folks, if the podcast suddenly stops coming out, it's because my computer fucking died. But we'll worry about that another day. I don't know. I'm trying to think if we should. Well, the Yakuza games they're kind of like the modern day beat 'em ups. So really calling them beat 'em ups and Musos together like that. But I really feel like Musos were inspired by beat 'em ups. I'll say that till I'm dead, probably. It does feel like that. Oh, there was another one I was going to talk about. Oh, Golden Axe. It was on the Sega. And it's like the D&D side scroller gauntlet wannabe, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You could play as the short guy, the Short King. That's it. That's his name, Short King. And then there's Battle Amazon Princess. And then there's just regular dumb guy. So pick wisely.
Yeah.
Who are you going to pick? You better pick Short King.
Yeah. There's a right answer and there's two wrong ones.
He's got a big axe, bro. I don't know who he's supposed to be. They made a couple of these. You can play them on the Switch right now if you've got the Sega edition, whatever fucking shit that they got going on. The modern TMNT game, which I don't think Turtles in Time was on the Sega. They've made a lot of Ninja Turtle games, but the modern one is the Shredder's Revenge. I was actually playing that with my wife. She's a huge Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers fan. So her collection is way bigger than anything I've ever tried to do with those two things. So she's pretty fun to play games with. She's doesn't really play games, so it's always a good time to watch her try to maneuver through the games. And I'm going, honey, this way, honey, no, push it out over. She's like, I got it. And she's got her tongue out. It's a good time. But yeah, the Shredder's Revenge has way more characters than the original Ninja Turtles games. Instead of just the 4 turtles, you've got Casey Jones and April O'Neil and Splinter, all kinds of fan favorites there to play as. And it's made in a way to pay homage to Turtles in Time. So the soundtrack uses a lot of the same sound fonts. It's just it looks like it, It looks like the Super Nintendo. I mean, better, but pixel art. So it's really fun. I had a good time playing with it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else to really say here about these old beat 'em ups and Mouso games. That they just are what they are, and I think that's good for gaming. I think sit down and unwind kind of games. If you've not played them and you like to fight in games and you want to fight with a friend, these are those. That's what these are. There's nothing hidden about them. They're just you sit down and you jam the A button. You're going to lose, maybe. Who knows?
It's exactly like you said. This is the perfect game to sit down with your friend and just turn your brain off, and we're just going to laugh and have fun, and whatever happens happens. And it's the same thing we talked about with the Mouso games and these beat 'em up, hack 'em slash, whatever you want to call them. It's pick your favorite, pick your flavor, whatever you like as your genre. Pick that and sit down and play it with your friend, and there's probably a version of that available.
There is one more beat 'em up that we can mention. I don't want to go into a lot of details about. There's some history there for myself and my brother. Castle Crashers. It was developed by the leaders of Newgrounds, Tom Fulp and Dan Paladin. I actually went to the Comic-Con release party for this. I have a figure signed by the two of them. An incredible game. It's a timepiece. It's like what do you call it? A time capsule of the early 2000s Flash cartoons and Flash animation, and all that stuff was really, really powerful then. I think we got to mention it. It's a side-scroller beat 'em up.
That was kind of the first instance of things going viral. Back in the day, kids, we were there before the internet was around. And so word of mouth, you would talk about stuff. Well, now all of a sudden, word of mouth became not just the people in your school, but it could be thousands of people. And I remember that game being one of the very first instances of something, going viral and being super popular, not just in our friend group or our school, but like you said, it was a hit everywhere.
It's a really good example of basically indie developers at that time. Yeah. I mean, incredible release. I think that's it, though. I don't have anything else to say about this stuff, at least right now.
Yeah. Obviously some areas of games or some genres of games, we're not going to have as much to talk about just because that's not the style of game that we focus on. It's not really your area of expertise. It's not really my area of expertise. It's just kind of something that really we played when we were kids. And yes, we enjoy those style of games. And like you said, I would be happy to pick it up and play it. But I don't have the collection or the experience with this genre quite as much as I do with some of the others.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. Always appreciate it. If there's a favorite fighting side scroll or beat 'em up, if there's a favorite thing that we missed or you just want to tell us about it, we'd love to rap with you in the comments or messages or the fax machine. Hit us up. Tell us, like us, comment us. Subscribe if you're not. Subscribe. Please subscribe. And listen to us. Every Thursday we're here.
Yep.
That's it. Goodbye.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See ya.
Wait. You got to do the see ya.
Oh, sorry. See ya.
Okay.